Hello and welcome back to John Can Fix Anything. This is part 2 of a Subaru 2.5i engine and transmission service video. I couldn't quite get everything into the first video, so I decided after 40 minutes to go ahead and split the video into two. So now we're going to go ahead and get into the transmission and the two differential services. So if you're ready to move on with your Subaru, stay tuned. Okay, I'm back. I need to make one correction real quick. The transmission dipstick is on the right side of the engine and not the left side. The other one that we looked at earlier, that is for your differential fluid. Your transmission dipstick is on the right there, and we're going to put our transmission fluid back in right there. So that correction real quick so you don't get confused. Your transmission dipstick and the fill tube is on the right side of the engine. Alright, I'm going to set up for the transmission underneath and show you what to do there. Alright, so we are set up underneath the car now, and you are looking at the transmission. This is the transmission pan, transmission fluid, and this is the transmission drain bolt. And if you'll notice right up here, there's a side filter here. Okay, now there's two filters on this system. Okay, one's right there and one is on the inside of that pan. So we're going to go get in that pan. We're going to drain this out, get into that pan, and we'll also change that filter as well. And that filter is the same filter that you use on your oil, if you believe it or not, but it is. It's the same as your oil filter, but I do use a little bit different type, and I will show you that filter because I like a little bit of different filter media on my transmission. But anyway, that one right there is the filter that you can buy just for your oil. Okay, so the size of these bolts, give me just a second. I will put a wrench on them, show you what the sizes are. I believe the small ones are 10s, but they might be 12s. Yep, the ones around the transmission cover are 10 millimeter, and the one on the drain, that's a little big, is a 17 millimeter. And I hope I have the 17. I don't. So let me grab the 17 millimeter real quick, and I'll be right back. So you need a 10 millimeter for all the ones around the actual pan, and a 17 for that one. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to grab a 17. I'm going to go ahead and drain that transmission fluid out. Make sure you got a nice big transmission pan for holding the fluid, because you're going to take quite a bit out of there, and I'm going to measure it out when I'm done and tell you how much it is, because I'm not doing the torque converter. So I will go ahead and get that going, and I will be right back. Okay, while this is draining out, I just want to review this real quick with you. When you pull these plugs out, these plugs are magnetic on the ends. Okay, and you should first of all check and see if there's any metal shavings on there. Okay, which this one was nice and clean even before I wiped it. Okay, and then you want to go ahead and let that drain out completely, because you really want to get as much out of that as you can because of your torque converter. You're not going to be able to, unless you drain your torque converter, which I'm not going to, you want to get all of that out. So anyway, make sure you inspect that plug. Okay, and make sure that it's nice and clean before you put it back in. You don't have any big chips in there that you might have to, think about maybe taking a look at something on your transmission, maybe having a problem. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let this drain out, and then I'm going to go ahead and start on the bolts. And when I get ready to pull the pan down, I'll go ahead and start the tape so you can see me, watch me pull the pan down. So we will be back shortly. Okay, so I've got all the bolts out except a couple there on the end so I can hold that pan up in place. I've got my holding pan here ready to go. So now what you got to do is you've got to work this pan loose, and it's really tight on there. You're going to have to get you a little pry bar or a big screwdriver, and you're just going to have to start working around the edges here like this. Okay, until you start breaking that thing loose. be careful around that exhaust, okay? And it might take a couple. And I'm just gonna take this pry bar and I'm just gonna work this in until I get it going. Sometimes it takes 2 pry bars, and I've got a couple of them. Okay, put this other small one in here like this. Just going to work it around until it starts coming loose. And I'm trying to control it so that I can go down over here and control the side I want to drop first. I'm trying not to make as big a mess as I can make. Okay, all right, so I'll go ahead and hold this and work this out. And you're going to probably make a mess, and it's just there's really not any way to get around it. So make sure you have rags and as big a container as you can get, because you're going to need it. And I'm going to go ahead and peel this on off. I can go ahead and take one more of those bolts out, and then I'm going to go ahead and work that around, and then I'm going to slide that down and empty it out. All right, so at some point that's going to give way. I've got one bolt holding it, and that's the best way to do it. And I was able to control it pretty well so that I could get most everything to come down on this side right where my pan is. Excuse me. So then I'm going to let that drain out as much as it will. And then once I've gotten everything out of this thing I can get out of it, then I'll go ahead and remove that last one. And then I'll just take my hand and I'll just pour it over into there. Hopefully it won't make the big mess. And then we'll be back and I'll show you the filter. Okay, so I got the cover off, and now you can see my filter. Make sure you keep your drip pan underneath it, because you're going to have transmission fluid all around here. Okay, and there's just no way to avoid that. So that's the filter. This particular filter has a couple of, I think they're 12 millimeter. They may be 10, but I think they're 12 millimeter that holds the filter in place. Okay. If you're going to, I dab this, but if you're going to, make sure you use a nice clean cloth when you do. Okay, so let me check and I will tell you what size this is. I don't think it's a 10, but it might be. I think it's a 12. No, it's a 10. So let me go ahead and break these loose. Just pull that out, and you're still going to get more and more and more and more. A lot of transmission fluid, so be ready for that. Actually, that wasn't too bad. It's usually a lot messier than that. Okay, so the filter's out. Now I'm going to take some time and I'm going to prep this area for the new seal that I'm going to get with the new filter. The filter usually comes with a seal. Okay, so you got the filter on the inside, and then I'm going to change that outside filter as well and put a new one on there. So I'm going to go ahead and stop, get everything prepared, and grab my new filters. I'll show you those new filters, and then we'll be back. All right, I've got another correction. It's been a long time since I did this service. The automatic transmission filter no longer comes with a seal, and so the last time I did it, I guess I used a gasket sealer, so that's what I'm gonna have to do again. I saw a couple that did have the seals with them, but the one that I got, this is a Power Torque. It's from, I think it's from O'Reilly, and it's a FK438. That's the model for mine, and it's the one with the, it's got 3 little holders on it and takes 3 bolts. So there's another one also that doesn't take any bolts, but anyway, that's the one I'm going to use. Here's my screw-on filter right here. This is what model is this one? I don't have the name of it on there. Anyway, it's the same filter that you use for the oil, but I do I do the ones specified for the transmission service, but it actually, the one that's on it right now is the actual oil filter number that's on the oil filter. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get this ready and strip off this old gasket sealer. And if you'll notice right here, there's another magnet right there, and there's just a little bit of metal shavings in there, but nothing, no big pieces of anything, which is good. So I'm going to clean all that up, take that magnet out, clean that up, and get this ready to go, and then I will be back. Alright, so I got this all cleaned up, got my magnet all cleaned up, put back in. That magnet just pulls off, by the way, and you can put it back on just like that. If you have trouble getting this old gasket off, which can be a pain in the butt sometimes, just go grab you a wire brush, a brass wire brush from Harbor Freight. They sell a kit of them for like $5. Grab you one of those and a drill, and that will take that right off really quick. Okay, just a little tip there. So I've got this ready to go. I got my filters ready, so I'm going to go ahead and reposition everything back underneath. I'm going to go ahead and get my gasket maker. This is the gasket maker I recommend for this. It's a red RTV high temp, but that's up to you, and you can decide whichever gasket maker you want to use, but that's the one I'm going to use for this. So I'm going to go ahead and get that prepared, let it set for a few minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, we're going to go ahead and put the filter back on, the internal filter first, okay? And I just take a little bit of the transmission fluid and I go around this rubber seal before I put it in. And remember, this is 3 bolts, okay? It only fits one way, just like that. You'll feel it when it goes in. It'll tighten up. I start the back one usually first. I'm just very snugging them down. There is a torque spec for that, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. So now I've got all my bolts ready, got my pan ready. Let that gasket sealer set for a little bit now. Okay, make sure you get your spout going there. It's on the passenger side. Okay, and then I just get right underneath here like this, and I just line it up by eye, hold it up in there. I also take a wire brush on these nuts before I put them back in, these bolts. That way they go in a lot easier. Check your transmission pan too. When you pull it off, sometimes you bend it a little bit. Make sure it's nice and flush and square before you put it back up in there. Once you get, 3 or 4 in there, it gets a lot easier. Don't let the pressure off of it though, because it will come down just a little bit, and if it does, it'll mess up your seal on your gasket sealer. So, now I'm going to go ahead and put the others in. Go ahead and pull off this old filter, and then we will be back when I've got everything ready to go. When you're removing this screw-on filter, be very careful. You're going to get another bath of transmission fluid, but go ahead and let that drain off as best you can because there's going to be more coming from up above that. So go ahead and do that and let it drain out completely before you take it off, and then we'll go ahead and replace it with a new one, and then we'll move on with this process. Okay, we're ready to put the transmission fluid back in, and remember, it's the one on the right side of the engine. That's your transmission dipstick right there. I'm going to go ahead and pull that dipstick out and put my funnel in, and I'm going to start out with 5 quarts. What I did is I kept everything I drained out, and then I put it back into an old oil bottle that I had, a 5-quart bottle. It filled that completely up and had a little bit left over, so I'm going to start with 5 quarts. Then I'm going to start it and run it, and then we'll go from there. But it's going to take a little bit more than 5, probably 5.5 quarts. So I'm going to go ahead and get that done, and I'll be back. I'm going to give you a quick tip on how to calculate how much fluid you need to put back in these things. When I was doing the transmission, I emptied everything out into that nice big pan there. Everything went into that pan, and then I took an empty Mobil 1 that has the side level on it, has a 5-quart side level on it, and it filled that completely up, and then had just a little bit left over. So I know it's just a hair over 5 quarts on my transmission fluid. So that's how you calculate that. I'm going to do the same thing here, and that's my differential oil. So I'm going to go ahead and do that too. So save your empty oil cans, the ones with the sides on them that have the side meters on them, and then you can just pour your fluids into those, and you'll always know exactly how much you've got to put back in. So that's the tip for the day on that. Now I'll go ahead and show you the gear lube. And this is what I'm using. It's 75W90, and that's full synthetic, and it's up to you if you want to go full synthetic or not. I've got a total of 3 because I'm going to do the back one as well. And you'll need a spout. I have a couple different ones that I use, but you'll need a spout to go in there as well. And then I'll walk over here and show you where you put it in at. And I went ahead and removed this hose here so you could see better. But right there, right down there, that's the dipstick for the differential. So you take that dipstick out and you put the fluid right back in there. Alright, we are down to the last 2 items of this total maintenance video for this 2006 Subaru Legacy. Now the last 2 items are the differentials. You have 2 on this vehicle. One is this one here, which is the central this is the center one. Right in front of, right there to the right is your, I'll swing it around if I can. Okay, right there, that's your transmission pan that we just finished up. Okay, so just to the left of that, right here, that is the center differential drain. Okay, and that's the one we're going to do right now, and then there's one on the back differential. So this takes a T60, okay, it takes the star type, okay, to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to crack this off real quick and drain it out, and then I'll show you. This one has a dipstick on this one. This is the one where the dipstick is on the left side of the engine, underneath where the intake tube goes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pop this off. You can watch it drain out, and then we'll put that back in, go up on top and fill this one. Then we'll go back and do the rear differential, and this video will be complete. Alright, there it goes, and it's about 1.2 to 1.4 quarts. These come in, I think these come in quarts. I believe I got them in quarts, but I'll double check that. And it's a 75, 125, but I'll show you the bottles and everything so you'll know exactly what it is. Now the differential on the back is different. It has two plugs. It has a fill plug and a drain plug, but this one just has a drain plug on the bottom of it because it's got the dipstick and everything on top, and so we fill from the top on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and let this drain out, and we will be right back shortly. Now this plug, you can see here, this plug has a magnet built into it as well, right around here. And when I pulled it out, it did have the normal amount of shavings, and they were just very small, real fine, and that's what you're okay with that. That's just normal wear and tear, okay? But if you've got any big chunks there, then that's something you need to worry about. Okay, so I cleaned that all up. I'm going to go ahead and pop it back in here. And if you need a new O-ring on it, put one on it. It's not an O-ring, it's actually a copper. I don't think it's brass, but probably copper. Okay, so go ahead and get that put back in. It doesn't take very long to drain this out. It's pretty quick, pretty straightforward. Just tighten that up. Take your T60 back in, snug it up. There is a torque spec on this, so make sure you check your spec for your vehicle. I don't like to quote many torque specs because then people come back and question me on them too much. So we'll go ahead and be right back. I'm basically just going to tighten this up, and then we'll go to the top and I'll show you where the dipstick is and how to fill it. Okay, here's a look at the dipstick there, and it is a very small distance between full and low or overfilled on this dipstick, so don't overfill this. Put a quart in, check it, and then go up a little bit at a time until you get it right. Okay, mine was about 1.2 quarts. Okay, but yours could vary and could be different. Don't overfill it because it's not good on the seals. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, and then we'll go to the back. All right, this is the last part of this video. Finally, we're getting to the end now. This is the rear differential, and you know, here's your back tailpipe right here. This is your drain, and then there's one right above it that I'll try to show you later. That's the fill. Okay, these are 17 millimeter. Okay, you might need a rubber hammer to loosen them up with your wrench. I didn't have to with the wrench I had, but it's just a standard 17 millimeter. Okay, and you just and it's not like the one in the center. It's not a star. Okay, this is an actual 17 millimeter plug. There we go. That's pretty dark in there. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and let this drain out, and then I'll be back and we'll finish this up. Just like the plug in the front, this lower plug has a magnet built into it as well. Make sure you clean it off and check out the shavings. Make sure you don't have any chunks or anything in there. I just had normal shavings. So I'm going to go ahead and I got it all cleaned up. And as soon as this stops dripping, I'll go ahead and put it back in, and then I'll show you how to fill it. Okay, so put the plug back in, got the top plug out, cleaned it all up. And I've got my squeeze bottle all ready, and all you do is just go ahead and put the squeeze bottle in, and then squeeze it in until it starts dripping out of this top hole. Once it starts dripping out, go ahead and put your plug in, and we'll call it good. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. And there she starts to go. All right, that's what we're looking for. Once you get to that point, you are good to go. Go ahead and grab your plug and put it in there. If I can get it started. I can't. Tough when you got that. There we go. I did have it turned down enough. One thing too, make sure your vehicle is level when you're doing this. Okay, because if your vehicle's not level, then you're not going to have a good reading on it when it comes back out. Same thing with the one with the center one as well. Okay, so I'll go ahead and tighten this down and torque it down, and this video will be complete, and I'll wrap it up in just a few minutes. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked what you saw and it helped you out, please give us a thumbs up, or better yet, subscribe to our channel. We'd really like to get to 1,000 subscribers this year, and we'll have some new videos out to you very soon. Thanks a lot, and have a great day.